and they're kind of letting you know that by the graphics they have. There's also a great website if you end up really liking the design part of this. It's called Skillshare, and you pay 99 cents, and there's different people on there who will have tutorials that you can learn stuff from. I've thought about joining it. It seems pretty interesting. A former student I have who was an art major here, she's on it, and she does some tutorials on there as well. So it's taking a little while to probably open up. Probably been a little while since it's been opened. This computer is just struggling a tiny bit. So remember, for this software, you do have to have everything you use for it in a folder, because if you don't, it's going to go looking for it and it's not going to be able to find it. So the first thing you'll notice is it does look kind of similar to Adobe Photoshop. Your menus are on the top. Your windows are going to be on the side, but they're kind of in icons where you can click on them to have them appear. And you also have your tools over here, just the same as in Adobe Photoshop. If you see that little triangle on the bottom right, if you click and hold, you'll find more text. Like I can type regular type, I can type in a shape, I can type on a path. A path is a line. I can do vertical type, I can do vertical type in an area, a lot of different things. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to create a new document, so that way we can put our images on there, and we're going to use them as a template. So we're going to start out easy, and we're going to start out with the underground logo. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go up to our menu, and we are going to say File New, because we're going to create a new document. Just like in Photoshop, like we did in the Photoshop tutorial, you can input your name up here. So we'll put your name, logo, so we know it's your logo tutorial. It is for print. You'll notice under Print Profile, you can actually change the design that you're doing for web, like different devices like mobile devices or video and film. We're just going to use it as print because that's generally what you're going to be designing for in this class. The number of artboards is the number of places that you can design. We have 4 logos, so we're going to say 4 artboards. The spacings in the columns are fine. Those are not something that will print. They're just something that are there for visual aid. The size can be letter, which is fine. And you'll notice that we function in points in graphic design. There's so many picas in a point, so many points in an inch. And you'll notice if you change that, so it's 612 for 8.5 inches. I'm not going to make you memorize that. I had to in graphic design school, but you don't need to. Bleed, like I told you, remember, if it has a full bleed, it goes to the edge of the page. We're just going to be using this to design in, so it doesn't matter. But remember, to do a full bleed, they generally print on a larger sheet of paper and then cut it down, so it's a little more expensive. Or they have a printer that can do a full bleed. So we're going to go ahead and say OK. And these are your 4 artboards. So these are like 4 pages. So an artboard is kind of like a page, is basically what it is. So the first thing we're going to do is we are going to bring your items into your software. So you'll notice that we have this, but the other thing we want to do is we're going to want to go ahead and save it to that folder. So we can go File, Save As. We've already developed the name, and you can see the file extension, which remember, a file extension, like I said before, is a .doc, .jpg, .ai. You can always tell it's an Adobe Illustrator document because it has a .ai. So instead of documents, I'm going to click on here and I'm going to try to find my desktop. If you've been to your desktop recently, it'll be under Recent Places. If not, you're going to have to go to your computer, hit this big arrow to allow you to see more options. I can go to my computer, I can go to User, I'm going to find my house. Then I'm going to go to my desktop, and then you'd be able to find your folder, and you're going to save it into this folder. So again, anything that you use, if you download different fonts that your computer doesn't have, you're going to put the font file in here. You're also going to have your template items in here as well, so that way you can have those to go back to. And then we're going to save it. And we're going to say OK. Alrighty. So what we're going to do is we're going to place our items onto this page and bring them in so that way we can use them as your templates. The other thing you'll notice is over here we have different windows like we did in Photoshop. And in Photoshop, remember your layers palette was just right down here on the bottom. But it's going to be a little bit different in Illustrator. All of your windows are going to be with that icon. So you're going to have that icon, and we're going to click on this because we're going to create a layer. So if you click on layers, you'll notice that it has layer 1. And what that means is that obviously you only have one layer, but you'll notice there's a color next to it. What that color means is that whatever item is on that page, or on that layer, excuse me, is going to have that kind of color around it when you click on it. It doesn't mean that that item is going to turn into that color. It means that that's the color when you click on it. There's something called a binding or bounding box. When you click on it, you'll see that the box is going to be that color. Now let's create a new layer, which is the same icon like we had in Photoshop, and you'll notice that the color changes. And what we're going to do is we're going to have a layer for each template. We're going to have a layer for each item that you create. So what we're going to do is we're going to create another layer. So these two layers can go together, and if we want to change it, so we'll just have like one will be your template layer, so we can click on it, double click, and we can say, we'll say frost template, because this is going to be your frost template. So we're going to have quite a few layers. So we're going to say frost template, and we're going to say my frost, so you know it's the one that you designed. So far we're going to have two layers. And the first one we want to make sure that we're selected as on is the template layer, because we want to make sure that we have that selected, because that's where we're going to place our first item, which is your template. Object place. The hotkey in the other software is Command D, but that's for place, file place. For this one, it's the up command or shift Command P to place. In Adobe InDesign, it's Command D. So the hotkeys are going to be a little bit different between the different software. So we can go up to File Place, because we're going to place the item, the template, on our artboard, and then we're going to actually design that item. So if you go to File Place, we're going to get the Frost Cupcake template. And again, if you've recently gone to your desktop, which you should because you saved this file, you can go under Recent Places if you need to, or Desktop. And then I'm going to get the Frost, and you'll notice it's kind of like tiny, but wherever I click is where that logo is going to go. So if I click once, there's the logo. And that kind of relates to what I was telling you about the blue box. You'll notice that any item that we put on this layer is going to have this blue box color on it when I click on it. It's called a binding box or a bounding box. It's just letting you know how big the size is. So what we're going to do is we're going to move this into our art box. And just like yesterday, we're going to make it smaller. I'm going to hold the shift key and I'm going to pull it inward, and then it adjusts it proportionately for me. So again, just like we did yesterday, did anyone have a problem placing? No? Okay. So again, if you have questions, just holler at me. Otherwise, I think we're okay. So we're going to hold the shift key so we do it proportionately. We're going to go to the edge. We don't have to hit the Command T in Illustrator. We just have to have it selected. Hold the shift key, double-sided slanted arrow, bring it in smaller, and then now you have your Frost template. So now that we have the template on here, we want to change to the different layer where it says My Frost, because this is part of your grade is kind of staying organized. So we're going to click on the My Frost layer, and this is where we're actually going to design, and we're going to trace this cupcake, and we're going to create this font, or excuse me, create the logo. Now my question is, do you guys like how they have the F up top and the C right here? Yes? Huh? So I was just checking, because if we like it, we can add it to our logo. If we don't like it, we can just say Frost and Cupcakes. Do you think it adds to the logo, or? I see like 2 head nods. Yes, no? Okay, so I guess we will keep it in and we will add it into the tutorial. Alright, so what we're going to do is, the first thing we're going to teach you is about the pen tool. And I'm going to have you watch this because it is a process, and I think you watching it and then trying to do it and listening to me is going to be a little bit easier. Now there are some tricks about the pen tool. The pen tool can be used to trace items, and it's over here and it looks like an old school calligraphy pen. And if you press P, it'll take you to the pen tool. Now the pen tool functions similarly in the different software. I think it's a little bit easier to use in this software. Now remember, just like in Adobe Photoshop, when you have items up at the top, it can change based on what tool you have selected. So right now, if I if I use this pen tool, the inside of the pen tool would be white. The outside or the stroke of the pen would be black. It would be a uniform or solid stroke. You'll notice if you come here, you can actually change the way the stroke looks. And it's only 1-point font. Now the thing is that if I'm tracing and making a shape, you'll notice that if you have a fill, when you start making your shape, it's going to start filling and making it to where sometimes you might not be able to see what you're trying to create. So it fills it. So sometimes when I create my shape, I will not use the fill because then I can't see what I'm doing. So it just depends. You can use the fill already, but if you want to make it to where you can see just the lines when you're tracing, I can click on this arrow and go to the red slash. What that red slash means is that there is no fill. And I tend to make my stroke color a different color than what I want it to end up being, and I can change it later because then I can see it easier. So if I do a bright blue, it's going to be easier for me to see the cupcake. I'll go back over all of this again, but I just want you to watch this first. So the pen tool, the nice thing is that if I click once, and you want to have it where the point hits the edge of the cupcake, I'm going to click once, and you can see it has a point. And I'm no longer holding my mouse down, but a line is following me. That's what the pen does. It creates lines between points. If you hold the Shift key, you'll notice it automatically moves and it goes to a horizontal line. The same thing with a vertical. So if I hold the Shift key, I can then move over here to the edge of the cupcake and click once with my mouse. So every time you click with the pen tool, it adds a different point. A point is that little square. Now I'm going to go up here, and I don't want to hold the Shift key because if I hold the Shift key, you'll see it goes straight. So I'm going to move and put the point of my pen on the point of that cupcake, click once. I know it's supposed to be horizontal, so I'm just going to hold the Shift key, click once. Now the thing about the curve with the pen tool, a pen tool can only do really one curve at a time. So you'll notice on this side there's only one curve from here to here. Whereas on this side we have a curve that goes inward and then we have a curve that goes outward. So you would need to do two separate clicks to create that curve. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the pen tool at the top and I'm going to hold. Now I'm going to hold. And you'll notice while I'm holding, if I push, you see these little horizontal lines that are coming up? Those are what we call handles. And the handles push your line in a different direction. So if I go this way, it's going to go up. So the more you use the pen tool, it'll be easier. But now I'm going to let go. After I've pulled and stretched my line to where I need it to be to curve, I'm going to let go. Now the problem is if you leave your handle, you'll see that I have a handle, and if I do another line, it's going to usually push on it too much. So what I do is I usually will delete the line. So I'm going to click up here again. I'm going to click and hold just so you can see again. I'm going to pull this out to pull the line, and then I'm going to push it down so that you can see this right handle but near the S is pushing that line down. So if I want this line to go up, I would be going this way. I'd be pushing with this. It's like a teeter-totter. Then I'm going to let go, and I'm going to delete the anchor by clicking back on this point. It's easier to manipulate curves if you only have one handle as opposed to two handles. So looking at this, I can see that if I go here, you'll see that I can only curve one direction, which is not what we want. So when you're trying to decide where to click, you have to think about where the curve is. So I'm going to try right around here, click and hold. I'm going to pull it, I'm going to push it up, push it up to have it curve inward, and I'm going to let go. I'm going to move back to the anchor point, which is that square. It also says anchor, you can see in that green text, and click. I'm going to go down here and I'm going to hold, click and hold. I'm going to pull, 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 push a little, too much, whoop, too much, and let go. Delete the handle. Now we're going back to where I can just use the horizontal. So I'm going to hold the shift key, click here, and then here. Now I've completed the shape, and there is my cupcake. So there's my cupcake. Boom, cupcake. So I'm going to do that again with you, but that's some things that I think would help you with the pen tool. When I first started out using the pen tool, no one told me about deleting one of the handles, and it made my life very difficult. And then if I wanted to fill this, I would just click on the object. Wherever these squares are, you can see is where I clicked with my pen tool. I could then go back up here and I could use the eyedropper and get this pink color, and then now I have my pink cupcake. So we're going to do that together. Remember, it sounds hippie, but the way you go into this, if you keep thinking negative, this is hard, I can't do it, it is going to affect your process. I should not have a watch. That's not good. So while my computer is being silly, go ahead and select the pen tool. And if you want, you can have the pen tool have a solid fill, or you can do like I did and just not have a solid fill. So we're going to press P for pen to get your pen tool, and then we're going to click on this first one. Solid boxes in Illustrator and InDesign mean fill. It means what's inside the shape. You can see it's also down here on your tool palette as well. So I can click up here and say no fill. And then I like using a different color stroke. You don't have to. I just think it is easier for you to see what you're doing. And then now we can actually start the pen process. Okay? So the pen tool, again, we're going to put the point of the pen kind of like what we did when we were doing the lasso. You're going to have the point against the edge of that puppy when you were trying to select it. Same thing with the pen tool. We're going to have the point of the pen against that edge of that cupcake. So we're going to start easy. We're going to start on the bottom left, and we're going to click once. Now that installed an anchor point. Now if we hold the shift key, remember we can hold the shift key and just move your arrow over and click once when you get to the edge of that part of the cupcake. You can let go here. You cannot let go when you're doing the curved part. Alright, so now we're just going to go up. We're doing the easy part first, the lines. We're going to go up to the top and click once. Now remember, we want it to be perfectly horizontal, not slanted. So we can hold the shift key, go over just a tiny bit and click once, and now you have your other anchor point. Now we're going to get into our 3 curves. So remember, we're going to click and hold. So we're going to put the top of our pen tool near the top of that little whip of the frosting. And when we click this time, we're going to click and hold the mouse down. So we're going to click and hold, and I'm going to pull left. Because when I pull left, it pushes my line to the right. And now I'm taking my left handle and I'm pulling it up. Because when I pull this left handle up, remember it's pushing the right side down to push that line down. When you get the line on the edge of the frosting, let go. And now you have your first curve. Now to get rid of that handle, remember if we have 2 handles, it's going to be hard to move and manipulate the other line. So what we're going to do is we're going to move back to that anchor point. And you can see it says anchor because I've moved my pen tool over. It says anchor, and I'm going to click once to get rid of that. And now I only have 1 handle. It makes your life a lot easier when it comes to creating your other curve. Now looking at this, you can kind of see where it curves inward and then it curves back outward. So we're going to go partway down the cupcake. And remember, since we're doing a curve, we are going to click and hold so that way we can curve that line. So I'm going to click and hold right here. So the edge of the pen against the edge of the frosting. Click and hold. Now I want my frosting to go downwards, so I'm going to pull the opposite way. I'm going to pull the right up, and I'm going to push, the left up and the right. I'm pulling the left down and the right is then pushing it up. Now I have that curve. I can let go. I can go back and delete that anchor point by moving my pen over the anchor and click once, and now I have only 1 handle. Then I'm going to move my pen tool down to the edge of that bottom curve. I'm going to click and hold. Whoops, too far. I'm going to hit undo. I messed up. So I'm going to move my pen tool out a little bit. There we go. I'm going to click and hold, and I'm going to create that curve. I'm going to let go. I'm going to delete that handle by moving to the anchor point. Now, since I'm doing the horizontal, I'm going to hold the shift key and go out a little bit. And then I'm going to close the shape. You can tell you're closing the shape because if you look at the pen tool, there's a little circle on the bottom, and that circle means you're completing the shape. And then now you have your cupcake. Okay? Sure. Back, 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 back. All right. Oh yeah, the paint bucket, no, you just have to use the top, the solid box. Yeah. Yeah. So remember, like I said, with the pen tool selected, that solid shape is what would fill it. And then the other shape with the hole in it is your stroke. So you have this part right here. You're up to this part? Okay. So now we're going to click at the top and we're going to hold. So we're going to click and hold with your mouse. With your mouse. You don't have to hold the shift key or anything else. So click and hold with your mouse, and then we're going to pull left to push it right. So if you want to go right, you see how I'm pulling the handle out further away? And then I'm going to pull up to push it down. So, did you click off of it and you're making it like a new line now? So when you move your pen tool to go to the top, it's like this. You can see a line moving. So yeah, you're just going to click and... Oh, you're fine. A pen tool is not the easiest tool to use, but it is one of the most important tools in this software. Okay, so, it looks like you already tried to make a curve. So let's let go and let's hit Command C. It's like one of my favorite hotkeys ever. Alright, and then now try clicking up here and holding. Click and hold. Click and hold. Pull left. Keep pulling. Now push and then push right. Nope, yep. Keep pulling this one this way and then there you go. Okay. And then let go. Okay. And then go back and delete the anchor points. So go back to that square. Back to this square. Click there, and now you only have one handle. So now it curves inward. So click right here. Click and hold. Pull. Oh, too far. Well, maybe not. And keep pulling. There you go. Oop, too much. Go. Okay, and try letting go. Now delete your anchor point. And then click on the bottom and hold and do your last curve. So the pen tool is a little tricksy, but it is a very important tool. Okay, so since you've already let go, now you'd be creating a new one. So just to remind it where you are, if you just go back here and say, hey, we're using this point. So now try clicking here, click and oops, on the edge, click and hold. Click and hold, pull, other way. So pull this way, this way. So maybe not. Oh yeah, there you go. There you go, and let go. Perfect. Now go back and delete your handle. Because the handles are those things on the outside, and if you have two, it really pushes the lines too much. There you go. Yep. Let me just stop it recording because it's